I paid brother's bills for 5 months while he was sleeping with my wife, and now when I found out, I cut them off, but family is begging me to let my wife back. Looking back, it's almost laughable how blind I was. I thought I had it all figured out: work hard, love your family, and things would fall into place. For a while they did. My wife Rachel and I had a comfortable life. Sure, nothing fancy, but we didn't need much to be happy. Then there was Clayton, my younger brother, who had fallen on hard times. He had a wife and a little boy, and he just lost his job. Bills were piling up faster than he could handle. I didn't even think twice about stepping in to help. That's what family does, right? For 5 months, I took care of almost everything: his rent, utilities, even money for groceries. Rachel and I weren't exactly rolling in the dough, but we made it work. I felt good about it, too, knowing that I was helping my brother keep his family afloat. Rachel had even told me that I was doing the right thing, that it was admirable. At least that's what I thought at the time. Then came that day. The day everything changed. It was a Wednesday, I remember that much. I'd gotten off work early for once and decided to surprise Rachel. She loved the Thai place across town, so I stopped by and picked up her favorite pad Thai and mango sticky rice. I even smiled to myself on the drive home, thinking about how happy she'd be. When I got home, the house felt strange. Not the cozy, lived-in feeling I was used to. The air felt thick, like it was holding its breath. Rachel's car was in the driveway, so I knew she was home. I put the takeout on the kitchen counter and walked down the hall to the bedroom. That's when I heard it. A muffled laugh, deep and intimate. I froze for a second, my brain scrambling to catch up. It didn't make sense. My heart was already pounding as I opened the bedroom door. And there they were. Rachel and Clayton. My wife and my brother. In our bed. It felt like the floor had fallen out from under me. At first, my mind couldn't make sense of what I was seeing, like I was staring at a scene from someone else's life. But no, it was real. Too real. I didn't scream. I didn't give either of them the satisfaction of seeing me lose control. I told them both to get out. That was it. Rachel tried to say something, maybe an excuse or an apology. I didn't care. I just walked out of the room. I waited in the living room, staring at the wall while she packed her things. Clayton left without saying a word, which was probably for the best. When she was done, she walked out the door without looking back. I sat in the silence, my mind replaying the moment over and over again. How could they do this to me? I'd trusted both of them completely. I'd spent months bending over backwards to help Clayton keep his family together, and all the while he was tearing mine apart. I barely slept that night. The pain felt like a knife twisting in my chest, but something else was building underneath. Not sadness. Not just anger. It was sharper, colder, and it kept me awake long after the house went dark. The next morning I awoke to the same heavy silence that had filled the house the night before. Rachel was gone. Her side of the closet was empty, her toothbrush was missing from the sink. It felt surreal, like I'd walked into someone else's life. But it wasn't a dream. It was my new reality. I couldn't stand it any longer. The betrayal, the humiliation, I had to face it head on. In the morning I decided to go to Clayton. I didn't even know what I wanted to say, but I had to see him. Maybe I wanted an apology. Maybe I wanted to punch him in the face. I didn't know. When I got to his little apartment, his car wasn't in the driveway. I knocked on the door anyway, and to my surprise, his wife, Lauren, answered. She looked tired, like someone who hadn't slept for weeks. "Hey, is Clayton home?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. She frowned and shook her head. "He left early. Said he was running errands." I hesitated for a second, not sure how to proceed. Then I decided to rip off the bandage. "Lauren, I need to talk to you about something. It's important." She invited me in, and we sat down at the small dining table. Her son was in the living room watching cartoons, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing just a few feet away. I took a deep breath and told her what had happened. I spared her the explicit details, but I didn't sugarcoat it either. I told her that I'd come home early yesterday and caught Clayton and Rachel together. Her face went pale as I spoke, and she didn't say a word until I was done. "Are you sure?" she finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," I said. "I saw it with my own eyes." For a moment she just sat there, staring at the table. Then, to my surprise, she let out a bitter laugh. "I knew something was wrong. He's been different lately. Distant. I just didn't think." She trailed off, shaking her head. At that moment, something shifted between us. We weren't just two people dealing with the aftermath of betrayal anymore. We were allies, bound together by the same pain, the same anger. "What do we do now?" she asked. I hadn't thought that far ahead, but one thing was clear: Clayton and Rachel weren't going to walk away from this unscathed. Lauren and I sat at the table for what seemed like hours, piecing together everything we'd missed. It was like opening a jigsaw puzzle and finding all the pieces distorted. She told me about the late nights Clayton claimed he was looking for a job, or hanging out with a buddy. She'd believed him, just like I'd believed Rachel when she said she was meeting friends or working late. By the time I left her apartment, we'd come to an unspoken agreement: this wasn't going to go away. They had humiliated us, betrayed us, and we weren't going to let them get away with it without consequences. Over the next few days, Lauren and I stayed in touch, mostly by text. I made sure to keep my distance from Clayton, and as far as I knew, he hadn't come looking for me either. I figured he was either too ashamed or too much of a coward. Rachel didn't try to contact me, and I wasn't going to contact her. I wasn't even sure where she lived, but I had a feeling she wasn't far away. Then one night Lauren called me. "Can you come over?" she asked. "I have an idea." I didn't hesitate. When I got there, she was waiting with a bottle of wine and a look in her eyes that told me she was done playing the victim. She laid out her plan. If they could betray us like that, why couldn't we do the same to them? I'll admit, I hesitated at first. Was it worth it? Would it really make me feel better? But then I thought about Clayton laughing behind my back while I paid his bills, and Rachel sneaking around like I was too stupid to notice. I agreed. It wasn't romantic, not even close. It was calculated, intentionally a way to even the score. Lauren and I didn't love each other, but we shared something stronger than love in that moment, a mutual understanding of pain and betrayal. When it was over, we didn't talk about it. We didn't need to. But something changed for both of us. It wasn't forgiveness, not for Rachel or Clayton, but it was a small step toward reclaiming some of the power they had taken from us. I thought that after what Lauren and I had done, I'd feel something. Relief, maybe. Closure. But the truth was, I felt empty. It wasn't regret, exactly, but the kind of emptiness that comes from realizing that nothing is as simple as it seems. The next day, I decided to go back to Clayton's apartment, not to talk to him, but to drop off the spare set of keys I still had for his car. I didn't want anything to tie me to him anymore. When I knocked, he opened the door, looking disheveled and annoyed. "Can I help you?" he asked, as if he hadn't fucked my wife a week ago. I held out the keys. "Thought you'd want them back. I'm done covering for you." He didn't take them at first, just stared at me like he didn't know how to react. Finally he grabbed it and mumbled, "Thanks." I turned to leave, but then he said something that stopped me cold. "For what it's worth," he said. It didn't mean anything. I turned back to him. What didn't mean anything? He shrugged, as if this was a minor misunderstanding. Rachel and me. It was stupid. A mistake. Something inside me snapped. A mistake? I gave up months of my life to help you, and you repay me by sleeping with my wife? He had the nerve to look defensive. It's not like I planned it. It just happened. I wanted to punch him. For the first time in my life, I wanted to hit my own brother. But instead I just laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was pathetic. "You're unbelievable," I said, turning to leave. Good luck paying your own bills from now on. As I walked back to my car, I heard him yell something after me, but I didn't bother turning around. The unexpected part came a few days later when my parents showed up at my house. They never visited unannounced, so when I opened the door and saw them both standing there, I knew something was up. "We need to talk," my mother said. I let them in, and before I could even offer them coffee, my dad started talking. "Rachel came to see us," he said. "She told us what happened." For a moment I thought he meant it all. But then my mom chimed in. She said she made a mistake, that she regrets it and wants to come home. I stared at her, stunned. "You're kidding, right? She's your wife," my mother said, as if that somehow excused everything. "People make mistakes, especially when they're young. Your father and I had our share of problems, but we worked through them." "Are you seriously comparing this to some fight you had 30 years ago?" I asked. "She didn't just screw up, she slept with Clayton, my brother." "Exactly," my father said, as if that proved her point. "She's young. So is he. You can't throw your marriage away because of one mistake." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My parents, the people I'd always looked up to, were actually on Rachel's side. "Let me guess," I said. "She's staying with you, isn't she?" They didn't answer, which told me all I needed to know. I let out a bitter laugh. "Unbelievable. Well, you can keep her. I'm done." My mom gave me this disappointed look, like I was the one ruining everything. "You're going to regret this," she said. "Maybe," I replied. "But not as much as I'm going to regret bringing her back." When they finally left, I felt a mixture of anger and relief. They could take her side all they wanted. I hadn't changed my mind. But the twist didn't stop there. That night, Lauren called me in a panic. "You have to come over," she said. Now. When I got there, she was pacing the living room, clutching her phone. "What's going on?" I asked. She turned to me, her face pale. "Clayton found out. About us." I stood there for a moment, absorbing Lauren's words. My stomach sank and a million questions flooded my mind at once. "What do you mean, he found out?" I finally asked. Lauren handed me her phone. "He sent me this." It was a text from Clayton. "You and my brother? Really? Was this your way of getting back at me? Don't think this is over." I stared at the message, my jaw clenching. How does he even know? Lauren shook her head. "I have no idea. I didn't tell anyone." "Did you?" "No," I said quickly. "Not a word." We sat down and tried to piece it together. Clayton didn't strike me as the detective type, but somehow he'd found out. The thought of him knowing made me uncomfortable, not because I regretted it, but because I didn't trust him not to make it worse. "What do you think he's going to do?" Lauren asked. I didn't have an answer. Clayton could be unpredictable when he felt backed into a corner. The next few days were eerily quiet. Clayton didn't contact me, and Rachel was still holed up at my parents' house. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, but it didn't until the following weekend. I was at home, trying to clean up the house to take my mind off things, when there was a knock at the door. I opened it and there was Rachel, standing on the porch. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Can we talk?" she asked. I leaned against the doorframe. "What's there to talk about?" She hesitated, then said, "Clayton told me about you and Lauren." There it was. The other shoe. I crossed my arms. "Yeah? And?" Her eyes narrowed. "How could you do this to me?" I actually laughed. "You're joking, right? After what you did to me, you think you can stand here and play the victim?" "It's not the same," she said. "What Clayton and I did, it was a mistake, okay. But what Lauren and I did was revenge," I said bluntly. "If you're looking for an apology, you're not going to get one." Rachel's face flushed with anger. "So that's it? You're just going to throw it all away because of one mistake?" I shook my head. "It wasn't just one mistake, Rachel. It was months of lying and sneaking around and making me look like an idiot while I was out there paying Clayton's bills. You don't get to come back here and act like you're the wronged one. For a moment, she just stood there, as if she didn't know what to say. Then, out of nowhere, she blurted out, "I love you." I stared at her, stunned. "You have a funny way of showing it." She stepped closer. "I made a mistake, okay? A terrible mistake. But I still want us. I still want to fix this." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to slam the door in her face. Another part of me, well, it didn't know what it wanted. "Go back to my parents' house," I finally said. "I need time to think." She looked like she wanted to argue, but finally nodded. "Okay." After she left, I sat down at the kitchen table and tried to make sense of it all. Did I still love her? Could I ever trust her again? And what about Lauren? What about the fact that this whole situation was getting messier by the day? I didn't know what to do next, but I had a sinking feeling that the worst was yet to come. The days after Rachel's visit were a blur of emotions: fear, confusion, and a faint, unwelcome flicker of hope. I hated that part of me still entertained the idea of reconciliation, but after years of marriage, walking away wasn't as easy as I wanted it to be. Still, I knew I couldn't continue to live in this tangled mess. It was time to end it, one way or another. I decided to invite Rachel and Clayton over to my house, not to rekindle anything, but to put it all out on the table. Lauren agreed to join me, both for support and because she had things to say of her own. If this was going to end, it had to end for all of us. As the four of us sat down in the living room, the tension was suffocating. Rachel avoided eye contact while Clayton had the audacity to look smug, as if he'd somehow won. Lauren sat next to me, quiet but ready. I was the first to speak. "This has gone on long enough," I said. "We've all done things we can't take back, but it's time to let it go." Clayton snorted. "You're awfully self-righteous for someone who slept with my wife. Don't act like you didn't deserve it." Lauren shot back, her voice icy. "If anything, you got off easy." Rachel shifted uncomfortably. "This isn't helping." "Helping?" I said, turning to her. "You want to talk about helping? Let's talk about how I paid his bills for months while you two were sneaking around behind my back." Clayton tried to interrupt, but I held up my hand. "No. You don't get to justify it. You lied to me. Both of you. And while I'm not proud of what Lauren and I did, at least we were honest about why we did it. Can either of you say the same?" Rachel looked down, and for the first time Clayton's smug expression faltered. "I don't care what either of you think of me," I continued. "This ends today. I'm done with both of you." Rachel's head shot up. "What does that mean?" "It means you're free to live your life however you want," I said. "But it won't include me. I'm filing for divorce." Her eyes filled with tears, but I didn't feel guilty. I'd spent enough time feeling like the bad guy in a situation I didn't create. "And you," I said, turning to Clayton, "don't ever call me for help again. We're done, too." He started to say something, but Lauren cut him off. "If you had any self-respect, you'd just walk away. You've done enough damage." For once, Clayton was silent. Rachel tried to plead with me one last time, but I stood my ground. "This isn't about revenge anymore," I said. "It's about moving on. I can't trust you, and without trust, there's nothing left." The meeting ended shortly thereafter. Clayton left first, muttering to himself as he walked out the door. Rachel stayed a little longer, but when it became clear that my mind was made up, she finally left as well. When it was just me and Lauren, the weight in the room lifted. "Are you okay?" she asked. I nodded. "For the first time in months, I think I am." Lauren smiled faintly. "Good. You deserve it." In the weeks that followed, I filed the divorce papers and began to focus on myself for a change. I cut off all financial support to Clayton, who eventually found a job and, to my surprise, managed to hold on to Lauren. As for Rachel, she moved back in with her parents. I heard through the grapevine that she was struggling, but I didn't reach out to her. That part of my life was over. Lauren and I stayed in touch for a while, but we both agreed to move on. What had happened between us wasn't love, it was a reaction to pain, a way to regain control. When the dust settled, we realized it was better to part ways. Now, months later, I finally feel like myself again. I learned the hard way that betrayal doesn't define you, it just shows you who people really are. And while I'll never forget what happened, I've let it go. Some wounds take time to heal, but eventually they do.